So we have a live Q&A. We have a live Q&A, and followed by exclusive footage, and then a tour of the building. So let's get started. Should we go in? Shall we, gentlemen?
A bit suspicious.
Guys.
I've got your bags. I'm glad. Just in case.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hey,
What are you doing here?
Oh my God.
So random.
Like that guy.
You gotta go now. These guys are the guys who worked on this, man. You guys. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, people here at Lucasfilm in the beautiful Presidio of San Francisco. Truly one of the nicest spots on the planet and the perfect place to discuss galaxies far, far away. Thanks to Twitter, who is bringing everybody in the Twitterverse this talk with the stars and creative minds behind Star Wars Rogue One, which we're all very excited to see. And I'm just going to introduce folks to you now. At the very end of this long, long panel, we have Gareth Edwards, the creative force behind this amazing movie. And right next to him is Mr. Ben Mendelsohn, the heavy of our piece, Director Orson Krennic, the Imperial Enforcer, and a very twisted fellow. And you can't quite see it, but next to him is a 7-foot-tall, reformed Imperial droid, K2SO, played by Alan Tudyk, the brilliant Alan Tudyk. Thank you.
How dare you?
And she's tough as nails and has a twisted family secret and is the hero of our piece, the wonderful Jyn Erso, played by the charming Felicity Jones. And then we have Diego Luna next to her, who plays Cassian Andor, the hardened rebel spy and one of the leaders of our mission. And we wouldn't have a Star Wars movie if we didn't have a cargo pilot thrown into the middle of the Civil War, an everyman who's trying to figure this all out, Riz Ahmed, who plays Bodhi Rook. My great pleasure to introduce Donnie Yen, international superstar, who plays Chirrut Imwe, the only character who has a circumflex accent on his name, and who plays a blind monk with a mystical side who can really kick butt. So welcome. Get into all of this, I wanted to just take you back in time about 34 years to the first Star Wars, or now what we call the fourth Star Wars. We all watched those credits go down that screen, and remember in paragraph 2 there's a little sentence that says a group of rebel spies takes plans from the Imperial Death Star and really delivers them to the rebels, and that's how we know Star Wars begins. And we actually know how that story ends, but thanks to Gareth and the people here, we're going to get to know how the story really begins and how they did it. This is a caper movie. It's the Seven Samurai. It's the Dirty Dozen, only better because it's in outer space, and what could be better than that? And we're actually going to get a sense of what it was like to get those plans and get it to Luke and Leia and all the familiar characters of Star Wars. This is the first standalone Star Wars film, the first of many, and one that has been more anticipated than any before or since or ever. So thank you, everybody at Twitter, for sending questions to #AskRogue1. I'm going to get to as many of them as I can, but let me start with Gareth and ask you a question about how it is that you came to find yourself with this huge job.
Oh my God. I suspect it was a clerical error, and they meant to email someone else.
But
Gareth Edwards, amazing filmmaker.
He's a great filmmaker. I just finished a big film, and I was exhausted, and I ended up going to visit people at Lucasfilm, and I really didn't want to do anything. I was like, I just want to have a holiday, and so I was very relaxed. I wasn't very good at auditioning because I didn't want to dive into a massive thing, and then I got home after that meeting and was sent an idea for a film, and as I was reading it, as I was getting close to the end, I started to realize, hang on, this is connecting to my favorite film of all time, A New Hope. And initially I was like, this is sacrilegious. Like, you can't make this movie. This is like sacred ground. You can't do this. And then about 5 seconds later I was like, please, can I direct this, please? It was a bit of a surreal dream. And honestly, we've all been talking about this. It still hasn't hit us that we've actually done this. It's so surreal to be able to make Star Wars.
It must be a relief to be able to talk about it, though, I would think. I mean, amongst yourselves, you've been able to talk about it, but I know several of you had to keep this a secret from those closest to you. I think, Diego, you didn't even tell some members of your family about what you were doing because they might blow it.
Well, it's just that Gareth said when he called me and says like, "Oh, welcome to Star Wars," and it was the happiest day in I don't know if in my life, but in the last 10 years. Let's put it that way.
Careful with that.
I would say, yeah, exactly. In terms of like the joy that my job can bring me, this is definitely the happiest day of my life. And he says like, "But you cannot tell anyone." And you're like, "What?" It's like a dream then, you know? It doesn't happen until you tell your best friend, "You know what, motherfucker?" It's like, it doesn't happen. And it took 6 months till I could share it with my kids, you know? We were packing and just saying, "Oh yeah, we're going on a long holiday." And they were like, "Okay."
Because typically when you go on vacation with your father, he stays with you. He doesn't disappear for hours at a time.
No, exactly, but this is different because he was going to pilot, to meet other rebels, to see creatures. So it was kind of cool. My son hated my job till I took this one. He was like, "Go, yeah, do
Rest
it."
assured he'll hate your job again, I'm sure. So let me ask a couple questions from people on Twitter. At LG16Spear wants to know, Gareth, what is your favorite Star Wars movie? I think you might have just betrayed that. And what specifically got you hyped to direct a Star Wars film?
My God, I think, well, obviously my favourite's A New Hope, and it's kind of checkmate, because the amount of pressure that's on making a film like this is pretty insane if you really think about it. And initially when you get offered it, you think you can't do this, it's just too much at stake. I believe the original films are like masterpieces in cinema, and the idea of making something that connects to that is a really high bar. And then you think, but I also can't sit in the cinema one day knowing I had the chance to do it and someone else did it. And so it's incredibly, like, you're just trapped from day one. But the weird thing that happens, it's a very weird thing, because there is a lot of pressure on us, right, when you're making the film, but then you get to set and suddenly you look and there's stormtroopers and an X-Wing, and you just feel like you're 4 years old again, and it's like you've gone back to that special place of childhood, and it's very comfortable, and it's really hard to get stressed out when you're stood in Yavin, next to the rebels. It's like, it feels more at home than anywhere else, in even the real world. So.
And you're obviously a guy who knows his way around special effects, and I'm wondering, because this is sort of the great legacy movie, A New Hope, it's, you see those, they're probably shot for shot, you could remember them as somebody who does what you do. How do you balance kind of honoring the sort of property that is A New Hope and kind of updating it? Because you, unlike other directors of saga movies, now we can do a lot of things, but it's not in the same exact period where as a viewer we're assuming that Luke and Leia and Han are doing their thing, and And those things are all happening contemporaneously to this film. So you kind of have to balance that. How do you do that as a director?
Well, I think Star Wars has got more, like, people think of it as science fiction or futuristic to some extent, but I think it's got a lot more in common with history and stories from thousands of years ago, like mythology and religious stories. And so it's like, if you treat the whole thing like it's an historical event that really happened. And I like to think that, like, George Lucas was with his film crew on Tatooine ready for these events, and we're on our planets with our film crew ready, and there's other people all around, and the Star Wars films, like, it just flows through everybody, and everybody has their own unique voice and tries to capture it the best they can. And, you know, we got Rogue One, and then, you know, George gets to do the sequel, Rogue 2.
It's going to be now known as Rogue 2. Speaking of legacies, then you get to play the heavy in this movie, and there is another villain in the Star Wars canon that people have heard of, and I'm wondering, as an actor who's played a lot of sick people, and let's just be honest, I mean, scary people. How do you get yourself psyched up to do that? And were you thinking, oh, you know, that James Earl Jones voice in the back of your head? How do you be a reinvention of somebody like Peter Cushing in this era?
Look, I saw this film, you know, when it came out. So it is very, very deep, you know, deeply within me, this film. So it was just enormous fun and enormous honor at the same time. You've got to give the Empire its due respect, basically. If you're going to play a character in the Empire, you have to give that Empire its due respect. And you know what? We built the Death Star. We kind of can do, you know. Rebels, yeah. But really, when you think about who makes this thing happen, we do. So it's quite easy to go there.
Well, you're totally committed to the Empire, which is lovely. Really hope-inspiring. I have a Twitter question here from @TheNightNews for Felicity. What traits do you think your character Jyn has that make her distinct from some of the other heroines in the Star Wars universe? People like Rey or General Leia or Padma Amidala. These are, you know, there is a long history, obviously, of strong women in Star Wars films.
Yeah, she's a pretty independent spirit. She's probably, at the beginning when you meet her in the film, she's a bit of a loner. She doesn't trust anyone that easily. It takes a long time to build that trust. And throughout the film, you see this woman learning to connect with all the other people on the mission and learning to embrace what each person can bring. And the beauty of it actually is that none of them as individuals can do as much that they can do when they all join together and come together in this mission.
One of the things you said to me a long time ago was that when you first started getting a lot of jobs in your career, you wanted to play a superhero. That somebody had said, what would you like to do? And you said, I'd like to be a superhero. In some ways, probably unfairly, as an English actress, people think, Wuthering Heights. That would be nice. Maybe there's something by Thomas Hardy that. Was it comfortable for you to do a real action role, and how did you get prepared for that?
Yeah, it was great to finally get out of the corset. Definitely, and I'm never going back. This is it now. It was. I mean, it is just full on kind of every single day, and Diego and I would be kind of doing our boxing training outside our trailers like we were in Rocky or something on a daily basis. I mean, it's absolutely full on, but it is so much fun. It is so much fun. You get to just kind of just throw yourself around these enormous sets. And then we were doing all sorts of wire work, which I'd never done before, and I absolutely loved being a bit of a tomboy. I absolutely loved every minute of it.
Did you ever get hurt?
All the time. No, literally. There were a lot of bruises.
There's a lot of workman's comp claims that we'll be filing at the end of this discussion. But that's a good segue to you, Donnie, because obviously you are well known for your ability to do a lot of different martial arts. Your mother's a Tai Chi master. You've grown up doing martial arts. And you get to play a blind monk. And I'm wondering what it's like, which is an interesting thing, because obviously in martial arts films, that's almost a trope. There are other blind monks. There have been, from Kung Fu on back. But how do you do it when you're literally fighting blind? Because those contact lenses were very opaque, so you couldn't really see.
It's very, very difficult.
Very
I
hard.
pretty much put myself in a very, I should have never agreed to do it with not able to see. It was really, it was just tough. Yeah. I don't think the fighting wasn't the toughest part. It was just interacting with everybody. You couldn't really look at them in the eyes, and I was searching for that interaction with my fellow actors. And I didn't want it to look like a robot. No offense,
What?
Alan.
Yeah, what?
But it was just.
I didn't want to look like a blind guy. Whatever.
I don't think you want to. Anyway,
balance. Find hard to play well in that case. So that was my take.
Well, speaking of playing a robot, Alan, one of the things that's interesting is that you were actually on set that whole time, even though when you see the film, obviously there's a 7-foot-tall metal thing where you would be standing.
7'1".
7'1".
I don't want to, yeah. Let's go.
Good fact-checking there. The thing I'm curious about is you actually were there on stilts, right? So you were actually acting in the ensemble as part of the company, even
Right.
though you were physically going to be represented. Why was that so important to do?
Oh, because you interact with your fellow actors. You can't,
Overrated.
create. You can't create a character sort of after the fact. You're limited, to everybody else's choices about you, and they can't. You're not going to create anything with someone. This was it was very much an ensemble piece, and Gareth set that up from the beginning. That it was. The movie is written that way, and that's how we all came together, and. So if I wasn't there, it wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have been able to. It wouldn't have been me. It would have been a character created by everyone else, and then I would have to come in and just do a voice. There was a voice character. Jar Jar Binks was just voiced, wasn't he?
That went well.
You said it. But like that's one way to do it, and then we did it a different way. And I think our way, just saying, is better. Although his voice was killing it.
I bring him back for Riz, I wanted to ask you, you get to play, there have been parallels made with your character and a certain legacy character, Han Solo, in that you get to be the sort of scrappy fish out of water, a guy who's thrown into this. What do you think makes him sort of work in the overall ensemble? Because you're really coming into this, you're not actually a dedicated member of the team, so far as anyone really knows yet. But
that's how Gareth described my acting efforts on set as well. I really like that description of me being like Han Solo, actually. Yeah, that, yeah. Yeah, I know. No, Gareth described my character as the guy in the war movie who's not meant to be in the war movie.
Right.
So I much prefer your description, to be honest.
Well, I've rewritten the script a little bit. I'm sorry, Diego, but I think...
Yeah, we should talk afterwards.
Yeah, good. Well,
Well, I guess, like Felicity was saying, her character doesn't necessarily trust very easily. And I think actually something that's cool about Rogue One is a lot of the characters have got quite murky pasts, and they're bringing a lot of baggage to the table, trust issues or guilt, or they've got debts to settle. So I think Bodhi, in that sense, isn't too dissimilar from the other characters, in the sense of like how comfortable he is in a kind of conflict situation. Totally doesn't fit in at all. But in terms of kind of somebody who's passionate about the mission and feels like they have to step up to the plate in an unexpected way, in a kind of unexpected situation, they're kind of all in it together.
And we already know they actually succeed, so that's a good thing. I wanted to ask a question on behalf of Patty2810, which is, and this is on a lighter note, did any of you pull any pranks on one another on the set?
I coloured in his contact lenses extra. Misty. Yeah, it was meant to be CGI. It was meant to be completely clear, but yeah. Sorry, man. Yeah, sorry.
That's why
Yeah.
Ridiculous. All right, so at Hannah Leia's Luke wants to know, who's your favorite Star Wars couple or character of all time?
This is
for everybody.
This is a couple that have actually had a relationship.
Yeah,
like,
well, or
that
you
are-
could actually, they could be like, I mean, some people say Han Solo and Chewbacca are
I mean,
a
if
couple,
it's a
pairing.
If it's like a sexual relationship, then probably C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
That little thing that comes out, the R2-D2.
Oh, God, okay.
Oh, I actually
sorry,
just
sorry.
got that for the very first time. Does anyone else have a...
My son is not watching this.
You started off with the F.
Does anyone else have a favorite
right?
character or a favorite pairing of Star Wars characters?
I would say Darth Vader and Han Solo are my favorite.
Yeah.
But Darth definitely. I mean, it's a difficult one because it's difficult to accept it, right? But it's kind of cool. I mean, there's nothing cooler than Darth. Really, I mean.
Sorry, Ben. I'm very sorry about that.
It's all right. I can deal with that.
Jar Jar Binks, I don't think I have to say.
Yeah, well, you
that's
clearly
what I said.
established your love
That's
of
your
Jar Jar
favorite.
Binks. Alan, I wanted to talk a little bit about your character because it's a real departure in terms of characterization of a droid character in a Star Wars film. You're not cute and cuddly. You're not there for the laughs. I mean, maybe you are off camera, but this is a different kind of robot, different kind of droid. Tell the audience a little bit about what makes K2 different.
I think one of his defining characteristics is that he was reprogrammed. He was an Imperial droid, so he was with the Empire at one point, and then was captured, I think, and reprogrammed, and now he's on the right side of things. And his reprogram, as a product of his reprogram, Cassian says he basically says whatever comes into his circuits. So he just speaks his own truth, and at times it can be funny. And he's childlike in a lot of ways, and like a child, he can be a bit of a smartass at times, or that's my experience with children. He can be passive aggressive even. Yeah, he's candid. He's always candid.
Candid artificial intelligence is the best kind, I think. So, congratulations for
Thank
bringing
you.
that to the world. At LG16 Spear would like Felicity to answer this question. What was it like to have your very own action figure? Or we will see it soon, I assume. But have you seen your action figure?
I do. I actually am building quite a collection that I have at home, which my nephew, who's 1.5, likes to rip her arms off. So that's good.
Does he leave the arms like strewn about for you to find?
He just starts eating them.
Just eats.
Yeah.
He's 35. It should be said.
My 47-year-old
That
nephew.
story.
He's 1.5.
Oh,
So, you know.
that makes more sense.
Well, I think that's appropriate, actually. Do they get you right? Do you think that they got the essence of at least Jyn, if not Felicity, in plastic?
Yeah, I feel there's definitely there's Jyn's core is in there, and it is. It is. I was looking at there's a particular sequence with a costume that we had hours and hours of discussions about, and it is quite extraordinary to see something that was just an idea to then, throughout the whole process, then see this tiny action figure with the result of this creation is pretty special.
Do you have the full set? Like, so if you're angry at Diego, you could just twist his head off or kick him.
Yeah.
At Brogan Francis 95 wanted to know, Alan, if you thought that K2 and C-3PO would get along.
I don't think they would.
Yeah.
No, right?
Yeah, they don't feel like they do.
Yeah. K2's somewhat unflappable. And C-3PO is just flapping all over the place. Just push him over. I don't know. He's definitely a lot bigger than him. Dink, dink, dink. I don't know. I don't think.
Well, it might not be pretty.
R2 definitely. R2's cool in a way that C-3PO isn't. He's always cussing. R2-D2.
No, it's true.
That's why they're always beeping him out.
That's a good one. At the Night News has a question for you, Donnie. He would like to know how your work on films like Ip Man and Flashpoint helped you while you were filming Star Wars Rogue One. Was there any connectivity between those projects, things that you learned on those?
That. But I would say, I want to change the subject a little bit. So when I got a call from Gareth, well, actually from my agent, and they asked me to be in Star Wars, and I said, yeah. And I just, immediately I said, oh, they want me to kick some stormtroopers' ass, right? So then when Gareth called me, I said, do you want me to kick some stormtroopers' ass? And he said, yeah. No, but he generally, I was a little bit, wasn't sure, even though, of course, it's a big deal. But when Gareth told me, no, I want you because I like your films and I want you to be part of the family. And then I turned to my kids and I said, at the time I was a little bit hesitant. I just got off from another film. I didn't want to leave my family for 5 months to London. And it ended up 9 months, right? So I asked my daughter, 12 at the time, and my son, 8, and I said to them, hey, do you think you like Baba's Ip Man? Because I'm kind of known for that franchise, right? Or Star Wars. And they said, Star Wars, yeah. I'm glad I listened to them, you know. So.
The wisdom of children, I think, is important. Yeah, it's a theme, yeah, right. Riz, you came out and you've done some very heavy dramas, and you've done really intense roles. And, you know, obviously anybody who's seen The Night Of is just blown away by what you do as an actor. Is there a huge difference, I mean, in terms of how you approach the work when it's like, you're not in isolation, you know, doing intense scenes with one or two people. There's all huge set pieces that you're also doing. What was that like?
Well, yeah, it's interesting actually when when Gareth called me up and said, you know, come and be in Star Wars, I was like, oh, cool, I've never done anything like this before. And then he basically then proceeded to kind of like recreate a series of scenes that I've done in like other movies for like 6 months. I won't go into it. No. You know, it was a learning curve for me. I mean, most of the stuff I've done has been like indie movies. So turning up on set and there's like 1,000 stormtroopers on set, you know, that's new for everyone. So I think it was just quite a steep learning curve. And also doing action, like, you know, I haven't really done many action movies before, like Donnie. And just seeing what he does and seeing that side of things, that was like a big learning curve for me as well. So it was kind of a really kind of new experience in lots of ways.
Ben, I'm wondering, following up on that, because you're playing scenes. These guys have the benefit of a real ensemble, so they have all these nice people around to talk to. And people don't know this yet, but your Death Troopers are, I think the minimum requirement would be, what, over 6'5"?
They're very, very tall.
Very big men.
They're very, very, very tall, the Death Troopers, yeah.
And how did it work for you? Because you're actually, I mean, in a way, it's a more contained kind of experience. I mean, you're
Yeah.
looming around with your cape and your dark.
No one looms like you, man.
Big loomer.
Yeah, well, you don't have the benefit of a large group to interact with like these guys do, and
That's a crutch, as we call it in the theater. What you're doing is,
no. What we're doing is more to do with operations and trying to drive something through. So it's a lot more. There's a lot more sort of solo or one-on-one kind of sort of commanding or being told off or that kind of stuff. That's what the Empire's like.
You always know where you stand when you work for the Empire.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. In fact, I would say that is the one great thing about the Empire, is that you could, if you play your cards right, be standing somewhere very different like that.
Well, I think there is that tension in your character. In fact, all the bad guys in Star Wars is the sense that your position is precarious,
Yeah.
and if you don't pull this off, or somebody's going to asphyxiate you in front of everybody, it's going to be very embarrassing, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, but boy, that's how they get the results.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough corporate structure, but boy, the rewards.
At Planet Blogger wants each cast member to think about and tell us what kind of music your character would listen to. I guess I should start with you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would say, you remember when you used to ring up before when you had dial-up internet and it would just go like that? I like to think something like that. That kind of, But that, yeah, you've already got that. See, you're lucky. You've already got that music.
That's that tone. That was a good tone.
I'd say for K2 it'd be Hall and Oates, but maybe just Oates'
Oates' parts.
when he broke off and did his solo work, which we all know so
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I think that's
Hall
definitely.
and Oates, just Oates.
Just Oates.
Okay, perfect. And what about Jyn, Felicity? What do you think?
Probably a bit of drum and bass, mixed with a bit of side trance.
Jyn's a raver, right?
And some MIA. Actually, I listened to a lot, before I'd go on set, I'd listen to a lot of MIA.
She is very MIA, isn't she?
Yeah,
I could
she has
see
a
that
bit
she'd
of
be
that
into that.
MIA attitude,
Yeah.
yeah.
Diego, what about Cassian? What would he listen to?
I would say like Manu Chao and Café Tacuba. He's very like, yeah. I think he truly believes that things will change.
Yeah.
He's,
True believer.
Uh-huh.
Ricky Martin.
Exactly. But that just when he's alone, and he would hate me to say it here.
Everybody loves a little Ricky Martin when they're alone. What do you think, Riz? And we should say that, you have to have the best answer because of your music, career. So.
I just listen to Alan Tudyk's voice on loop. And then it's not even to do with the role. That's just normal, just day-to-day life.
Very soothing. Yeah.
Very soothing.
Yeah.
Thrilling.
And Donnie, what do you think?
I think I'd have to say class, kind of Chopin. Chopin is kind of fluid, poetic, spiritual. It's kind of like Chopin.
You should release a mix. Actually, it'd be a great. I mean, the Oates thing would be hard to be. It would be hard to get Oates, just Oates. I don't even know if he's allowed to do that. But other than that, it would be great. At Reckless Anakin, which is a great handle, wants to ask you all, who is your favorite all-time character from the original trilogy of Star Wars films?
Well, I think there's a certain character in our film that was a bit of insanity to be able to shoot a scene with, and he's dark. He's voiced by someone called James Earl Jones. Darth Vader.
I remember, on the first day with Ben,
We were doing this scene, and and we probably worked together. We'd done Iceland, I think, and stuff like this. But Ben's like a phenomenal actor, and I think he'd be the first to say he's got this thing in him where he can be incredibly intimidating if he wants to be. He can just switch it like this. And so I was waiting for a moment where he was going to do this with me, and it was all going to get a bit serious. And we're in the middle of this scene with Darth, and then suddenly there's this point, and Ben goes like, "I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Over here." And we go over into this corner, I'm like, "Shit, it's happening." I'm like, okay, what's the matter? You okay? And he's like, "It's Darth Vader." And I was like, I'm so relieved. All of us were thinking the same thing, like, but we're trying to act really professional, like. This is what we do.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love Obi. I love Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? I mean, he really is, and I think for everybody who's loved all of these films, what makes them unique really is that there is this spiritual quality to the movies. They're not just slick action films, and I think, you know, from the very beginning, he sort of grounds you in a kind of spirituality. That's kind of cool. How about you, Alan?
There's so many that are.
I feel like you have to answer with a droid, and I want you to know, because you played a droid, you don't have to like droids. Just
hate them. Good. You know, Yoda is one of my favorites. I love Yoda, hanging out in the swamp by himself. Little cane. I like the way he talked backwards. He was a pretty colorful little character. I like Yoda. The final answer.
Yoda. We're going to take Yoda for 500. Felicity?
Are we allowed to repeat?
You can repeat. I mean, there's no reason that you have to come up with an original.
Okay. Well, I too am very fond of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. But I think particularly would have to be Han Solo.
So you didn't repeat, actually. You set us up.
You said
you're going to repeat. And you just did a little, like, jiu-jitsu move.
Yeah, I kind of started around
with the Han Solo, which he has gone unmentioned.
Mad skill.
I know.
Yeah, amazing. That's the force in action right there, ladies and gentlemen. How about you, Diego?
It's simple, yeah. Darth. I mean, I would always choose to be Han Solo when I was playing with my cousins, and the humor and just the way he approaches every situation is spectacular. But if I have to choose one, and I think he chose me, is Darth. It's like he appears in my nightmares. He's there always, you know.
And in your dreams.
If I just like, I went to the set one day when Gareth was doing a test, and I started listening. And literally, I became 6 years old and freezed, you know. And I was like, and it's just, I don't feel that with anyone or anything. It's like, it's not even with you. I mean, and our thing is special, but that is like here. I cannot. I'm sorry. Yeah, I accepted it. I feel much better. Darth Vader.
Riz?
Man, I saw the first films when I was really young, and I was really into the Ewoks. I was so into them. You know, yeah, man, it's cool little brown dudes running around doing their thing. Like, yeah, I was into that. Maybe it was like a teddy bear thing, and I don't know. Ewoks.
It really does matter what movie you see first, I think. And some people, the Ewoks are just the moment where they're like, wait a minute, that's too cute.
Hey, back up, man.
Yeah, I know. I love them. I'd like to have a couple of them right here, right now, on this stage. Donnie, what about you? Oh wait, you Darth.
Cool outfit.
Cape.
He likes Darth for the outfit.
Yeah. Really cool and fun.
Yeah. Well, Ben, you got a cape. I mean, what is it like to act with a sort of big sweeping? Do you feel how do you get into it? How do you own that kind of?
Oh, it sort of has a way of owning you. You know, I mean, that's the thing about that. You put that on, you put on the Imperial outfit, and you get to have a cape. Thank you. And you know, it feels pretty special. It's pretty easy once you got it on.
Do you keep it? Do you have it? Kids?
Of course I do.
All right.
Oh yeah, I've got a range of them. And what you don't notice is slightly different hues of white and grey. Yeah, I like to mix it up a bit.
all neutrals, which is nice.
Oh yeah, no, you've got to stay in those neutrals. Very
zone.
much. We like that in the Empire.
Yeah.
There's a bit of olive for, variation, but other than that, strictly neutral.
There is a dress code in the Empire, I know that. Well, at Millennium Todd wanted to know, Gareth, since we've been speaking a lot about Darth Vader, was there special pressure that you felt because you knew he was going to be included in the film, and how you were going to accommodate this character and sort of integrate that into the plot that you're working on with this company, but not be overwhelmed? I mean, you all have admitted that you had that "oh my God" moment when that can be overwhelming, obviously, too. I mean, it can really be disruptive, I would think, if you don't handle it well.
Yeah, it lasts about 3 hours, and then eventually, like, Darth, over there, come on, Jesus, Darth! And it's a very intimidating thing, I guess. And I mean, we really did our homework on Darth, and I learned a lot about the original films and how they handled it. For instance, the first Darth mask was sculpted out of clay, and today you can do everything in a computer. So we tried to get all the fingerprints and all the things that were like little errors in the original mask to be in our film. And then in the first camera test we did, like Greg Fraser, who's the DOP, who's amazing, would say like there's more in common lighting Darth Vader with a car than there is a human because of the reflections of the surface and stuff. And we'd do some shots, and there was something wrong with it, and you go, there's something not quite right here, this didn't quite work. And you look back at all the original material and realise that, like on Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, Darth is always the tallest person in the scene. So normally, if the camera's behind me filming Ben and I'm in frame with my shoulder, it's really like I'll be the biggest person in frame, so the camera has to come higher so that I become smaller. And so for when Darth's walking up to people or anything's happening, the camera has to keep doing this sort of like dance to make sure Darth's always the tallest person no matter what he's doing. And it was something I didn't anticipate, but once you suddenly start doing this, all these different ingredients, like the famous sound effects, James Earl Jones, the design of everything, it's like if you take one away, even music, it's not Darth Vader, and it's like he's kind of it's a team sport, I think, being Darth Vader. It's weird.
No, it is interesting because obviously in isolation it could feel ridiculous. It's the cumulative effect of the height, the breath, that I guess as actors you immediately, if you're doing a scene with it, you feel it. You're in the moment with this creature from your nightmares as a child. But it is all of those things together at once.
Well, people talk a lot about great characters, and use Darth Vader as an example, but I also think it's fair to say it's great design. Like, the second he walks in on that first shot in the original movie, you hate him, you love him, you want to spend the rest of your life with him. Do you know what I mean? It's all in one shot.
Spend the rest of their life with
Diego. Come on, stop denying it. I mean, I can see it in your eyes.
All right. But you were saying.
No, it's like design's really important, especially in Star Wars. You can say a lot about a character from the way they look.
Right.
And it's subconscious, most of it.
Right.
Like, we used a lot of influence from like Vietnam and World War II, obviously, and modern conflicts and stuff, and even like trying to flip the original ideas of A New Hope and invert them, for instance. And this was subconscious, but I realized the other day when we were watching one of the scenes that the beginning of A New Hope is a guy in a black cape, Darth Vader, surrounded by white stormtroopers coming towards the camera. And we have a guy in a white cape surrounded by black stormtroopers coming towards the camera at the opening of our film. And all these things are just like subtle little differences, but I think when you grow up with Star Wars, you're so familiar with the vocabulary, and it's like you're trying to make a meal that feels different with all the same ingredients. And it's like, Star Wars, and you hope like pizza with doing pasta or something. It's like, so you feel like it's Star Wars, but it's not the same thing you've had before, if you know what I mean.
I wanted to ask you that. One of the things that you've said, and John Knoll, the creative force here, has said, is that in a lot of ways, the Death Star is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction, obviously. And it has contemporary resonance. I mean, we live in a very precarious time. And you have compared this to the sort of race for the at the end of World War II, the espionage and everything that went on to get the atomic secrets. Obviously, this is a terrific entertainment, but do you think there's a bigger message or a heavier theme that's particularly relevant now? And I'll open it up to the whole panel after Gareth.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Star Wars, when it's done well, has meat on the bone. It's about something. Like, these are kind of like life lessons for kids. And I know I carried, you know, my Star Wars lessons with me for the rest of my life. They basically said, like, turn off your computer and trust your instincts. And so that when we made this film, it was like, turn off the internet, stop reading it, and trust your gut and do the movie that you think, as a fan, you're going to sit and watch and love. And I think stories like, you know, for kids, and the kids are like computers, and the stories are the software that we load into them so that they can then deal with, like, when they have similar, you know, dilemmas in life, they can remember the stories and they're sort of little guiding forces of how to choose right from wrong. And I think you need to have that in Star Wars. Without it, it's just a load of explosions and robots, no offense, Helen, and spaceships. And Star Wars is more than that. I think that's why it's special, and that's why it lasts over 30 years, is because it's actually got meaning behind it.
Anybody else? Is this a timely movie as much as it is a entertaining movie? Does it have any specific relevance right now?
Go ahead.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's. I think it sends a clear message of people very different from each other that apparently had nothing in common. They leave their differences on the side and work together as a team and achieve great things. You know, it's a great message for the world we're living in. It's let's celebrate our differences and understand that makes us richer, you know, and stronger.
Riz?
Love what you just said.
And I'll segue to at Sniffle Gully's question. A little bit of an awkward segue, but what were your reactions, each of you, when you accepted your roles? How did you find out? I know, Felicity, you actually had sort of a clandestine cup of tea with Gareth in LA, right?
Yeah, we had a very early morning breakfast where, because we were discussing the entire film and the story from start to finish, we had to do everything in whispers so that we wouldn't risk leaking any secrets. But it was one of those, I remember just very early on, I just had no doubts, no sort of questioning. It just was absolutely instinctive that it would be a fantastic thing to be a part of, and just...
No doubts.
No, and I usually have a lot of doubts. So it was the way that Gareth, I'd seen his work in Godzilla and Monsters, and I thought there was I think it's that duality that you have in Star Wars, the humanity with the science fiction is what makes it so special, and I think Gareth has done that consistently in his work. And it felt like there was a real, with everyone involved, I mean, a lot of us have done indie movies, have done work based purely in kind of character and relationships, and so it felt like there was a wonderful opportunity for all these kind of actors to be making something on this scale, of this kind of reach.
Diego, you thought that you were being pranked, right? You thought that someone had called you up and, you know...
You know what I really thought? Because by the first time I met him, I've just seen the Monsters, the first film, and I thought, like, oh, he's doing Rogue One, but he wants to get a small project ready just in case Rogue One doesn't happen. And he wants me for that one. And, you know, a tiny film in Mexico with no money. It sounds like...
Well, Gareth works in Mexico.
That's his first film, so right. I was like, it fits.
You thought he was just... He was using you.
Horribly. We sat down in a similar situation, like a restaurant in the corner. He was whispering, very aware of the waiters. And he started talking about this film, and I didn't want it to interrupt him, you know. I just wanted to listen, but at the same time I was thinking, why am I getting all this information? What am I going to do with this now? And he kept talking, like telling the story from the perspective of a guy that then he does this and then he does that, and And I go like, is he telling me I'm going to be the guy, or he wants to... But I was
your opinion on who to cast.
Exactly. No, that's what I said. I'm not going to ask him. What if he says, no, I want your friend's number, Gael. Do you have it? Give it to me. Or who do you think can play it? Yeah, that kind of thing. So I didn't want it to interrupt. It was 3 hours and a half, that meeting. And I came out of there like feeling the luckiest Mexican ever, like, what? and thinking this guy's crazy. Like, really? I mean, makes no sense. I've never done anything to be close to this world, and I've never been in the gym. I've never done... Why am I here? I thought someone was playing me. And then it was 6 months of like, yeah, a month of silence, and I was like, oh, okay, it's over. And then he would call again, and oh, put yourself on tape again, and it was like a nightmare. 6 months of being but not being part of it. It was horrible.
It does sound horrible, really. Do you have anything you'd like to say to Gareth now? To get it off?
No, because now I'm living the other side, you know. Now I can talk. It's been 2 weeks of actually being able to share this. I go to bars at night and just tell...
Pick strangers?
Yeah. Gotta tell you stories. There was a guy that, So it feels so nice to be able to share it. It's been, 2 years, basically, of silence.
Wow. Riz, do you remember your...
Well, I remember I was shooting the night of, and he called me up and said he wanted me to put myself on tape for this role, explained a little bit about the role, which actually changed quite a lot, you know, in the coming months. But he gave me his email address, his personal email address, which is a big mistake. And he said, listen, do you want to send me an audition? So that day I sent him 2 versions of the scene. And then over the next 4 days, I sent him another 12 versions of the scene. And the thing is, it kept getting worse, because when I didn't hear back, it's like texting a girl or something. It's like, when I didn't hear back, I thought, oh, if I just send one more. And I started doing crazy stuff. I started like getting into costumes and doing like weird accents, thinking maybe it's the accent. I don't know. I just kept spamming him with these audition tapes. And then I remember like 6 days later, he emailed me and went, hey Riz, there's no need to send me any more tapes. We'll be in touch. And so I just thought I'd blown it on like a psychopath level. Like he just thought. And then when he called me, I thought it was to take out a restraining order or something. So it was relief more than anything. It was like, oh, okay, you don't think I'm crazy.
Did you think he was crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, he sent 2 through, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's got, such range. This is great. He did it this way and he did it that way. This is great. He's got it, right? I'll just show the others, and we'll do, we have to make everything official before we tell someone, because you never want to say, oh, I'm sorry, it's not happening. And so I was just going through that, and as I was going to work, another 2 would show up. I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, that's a different take, yeah. Oh, and I guess that's a different take too, that's great. And I just kept getting them. And honestly, after like number 10, it was a bit like, I'm not sure I want to work with this guy.
It's very irresponsible that you tell us this story today, after 2 years of sharing everything with
we
this
never
guy.
talked about this before.
I'm sorry, man.
He really wanted the job, I mean that.
Actually, I wasn't sure about it.
So what if you really want something? What do you do? Do you show up at somebody's house? Well, if you didn't really want it, I can't wait to see what you really, really want to do. It's going to be exciting. Excuse me if I mispronounce this, but at Vaishnavi_Mr. would like to know, Felicity, in what ways do you relate to your character? I might just modify that and say, what about Jyn is like you, and what is completely not like you?
I don't know, probably someone else should answer that.
She looks a lot like you.
Yeah. I think there's always, you always, I think as actors you think you're going to be completely different in every single performance. And then you realise actually you do bring your essence to everything that you do, and you can't escape that. That's what comes through on the screen. But I think I would take from Jyn, I like her. She's a bit of a feral creature. She's there's a kind of animal instinct that she has, and she's really true to those instincts. And I really like that about her, and there isn't a lot too much overthinking. So I would like to take that from her into my own life.
Do you think that you're more circumspect? I mean, do you overthink things? And I mean, obviously, you don't kill people in your private life that I know of, but possibly Diego after the.
At least the toys, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm sure. This now feels like some kind of therapy session.
Well, that's the point.
I mean, definitely.
Get it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of actors, you kind of you think about things from many different kind of angles and approaches, and you do your preparation. But ultimately, when you get to set and you get on there, you've got to throw that away, and you just got to leap into it. But at first, yeah, of course, there's a measure of analysis and understanding of the world that you're going into.
Can I just say that Jyn is a character, from my understanding and observing, is who like doesn't give up and doesn't settle and just keeps pushing. And working with Felicity, that's what she's like as an actor. She is like, I just don't know where she gets the energy from. Like day after day, just pushing so hard and never compromising, always trying to make the scene better and everyone around her better. So in that kind of way,
She has that relentlessness. Well, this would be like therapy if you'd answered in the opposite way. If you had said, she's nothing like that. She's terribly lazy and never comes out of her trailer. @George_Starman wanted to ask all of you about the costumes. How did you feel in the costumes, and with the idea that people will be wearing these costumes at conventions, and that you're becoming part of something bigger? Did you feel comfortable in them? I mean, a couple of people who aren't here, I know Forrest Whitaker really had like a lot of talked a lot about how that heaviness of the armor and everything sort of helped him assume character. But if some of you could take a stab at that, and obviously Alan has a different kind of experience with costuming, but.
Pajamas.
Yeah.
Just like an
The best one, by the way.
Yeah, pajamas, like a body sock.
Covering the whole body.
On stilts, yeah.
Who wants a body sock on stilts? Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's going to be dressing like that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to start then with that one. I have the coolest outfit, I think, and it's yeah, of course.
Have you seen what he's wearing?
Yeah, but mine can be taken anywhere,
Look, excuse me. He's got a cape. Talking. You have the coolest outfit.
I think so, sir.
Oh,
I think so. Mine works in every kind of weather,
Get a cape.
But I'm gonna tell you one thing, because the amount of detail, the work on the costumes is insane. Like there's like 4 people working on each costume, and there's this gigantic space where you have all these people paying so much attention to the detail of the costumes that the background is wearing, and everything is done perfect. And one day I'm trying to close something, and I go like, just put a button here, and they go like, what? No. There's no buttons in Star Wars. No one has a button. Everything just folds. There's no buttons. And I go like, really? What? And start looking at people, and that's true. Like there's these rules that just apply in this galaxy far, far away that are so specific and that make things so difficult. Because, I mean, it would have been so easy to say, okay, just the guys in the front are not going to wear buttons, and everyone in the back just put buttons, and let's go, But no.
There's a sequel coming. It's called The Button Awakens. Starring in that. All right, we have time for one more question. It's from @Kochi89 in Italy, and in a word, she or he would like you to please describe your Rogue One experience. Like, how has it been?
Excellent.
Journey.
I thought you were going to say oats.
Huge.
May I say a word in Spanish? Chingona.
Say it again.
I almost said that one.
You were going to say chingona, right?
I'm going to say something in Mandarin that Jiang Wen taught me. 真他妈的好. Audience of one.
There's going to be a lot of people Googling
You're going to say
that.
something in Urdu.
No Urdu. What's your word on?
For all this, as supposed with it.
It's a sentence, but yeah. We don't want to argue
Yeah, I
with it.
mean, it just kind of go with the flow. You know?
Well, wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. This has been a real honor. And I want you all to stay on Twitter and get to see a couple of our heroes here lead you behind the scenes at really one of the most bizarre planets on the planet, which is here at Lucasfilm. You get to see behind the curtain, as it were, where the magic is made here at Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic. But before we get to that, we're going to show you an exclusive clip from Star Wars Rogue One, so enjoy.
Why does she get a blaster and I don't?
Do we get to see the clip?
What?
I know how to use it.
Just
That's
for
what
them.
I'm afraid of. Give it to him.
We're going to Jeddah. That's a war zone.
That's not the point of... Where'd you get it?
I found it.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Trust goes both ways.
You're letting her keep it. Would you like to know the probability of her using it against you? It's high.
Let's get going.
It's very high.